Agenda item number 2.
Item number 2, public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 2017 Lewiston Capital Improvement Program bond issue order. Requested action to adopt the fiscal year 2017 Lewiston Capital Improvement Program bond issue order authorizing the issuance of $12,194,526 in fiscal year 2017 public improvement bonds and making an appropriation for certain capital projects.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Council LaChance, seconded by Council Cloutier. Discussion. Yes.
Thank you. I was reviewing this week, actually yesterday to be exact, and is Dave Jones here? He is. The, what is it called here? This is the paving study that we had the consultant do on the roads in Lewiston. Pavement Management Survey, Lewiston, Maine, February 2016. And this, I believe, graded every road in the city from 0 to 100.
That's correct.
And it just so happened, my curiosity got the best of me, and I wanted to find out what the worst road in Lewiston was. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't have any idea what it would be. And you know what's coming up. The worst road with a score of 2 out of 100 was our old friend Willow Circle. And I really was surprised. I didn't think it would be Willow Circle because who knew? But that really is the worst road in the city of Lewiston is good old Willow Circle, right behind Public Works, sorry. But I would like to see something done with that in it. And the residents don't want it completely re-engineered and torn up and completely redone. They would be happy with a patch and fill, resurfacing just the top. With a score of 2, and then, by the way, the next worst road, there were several 8s and 9s, so there was quite a gap. A lot of 50s, 60s, 70s, and the 100s obviously are brand new resurfacings. So I would like to ask the council to consider and staff to look at and perhaps give some information right here tonight as to what we could do to make that happen without re-engineering and tearing up the entire road to really help those residents out, because they've been putting up with that for quite a long time, and with a score of 2, I think they deserve to have something done.
Well, I'll give you the same response that I've been sharing with the council for some time now. We did look at what it would take to actually fix the road, the full length of it. It's about 1,100 and some odd feet long. It would take, in order to do it right, and this would be a complete reconstruction of the road because the base isn't there anymore. It would take around $140,000 to redo the entire road. Now, that's the entire thing that you were just saying you don't want to do, Councilor LaChance. If you wanted to, we could do a shim and a surface pavement of the road. It'd probably cost between $35,000 and $40,000. I can guarantee you within 5 years it would look pretty much as it does right now because the base isn't there. So you can spend that money, but I'm telling you it's not going to last as long as what you'd think it would. So,
and I understand that, and also would like to note that there was some ice problems, pretty serious ice problems a couple years ago with the water coming down off from behind the high school down the hill and just flowing right onto the road. That was gullied out.
Right.
Public Works worked on that for a couple years, and really, I think they've made a difference in that. That took care of a lot of, I would guess, the heaving and freeze-thaw of the ice being right on the road. That should make a difference going forward with any new surface lasting at least a little longer than it had previously. The residents don't expect a 20-year road or maybe not even a 10-year road. They just want something that they can drive on. And if it lasts 5 years, I think that would be that would meet their expectations, given
Yeah.
the number of houses that are on that road, which is rather limited. But what they have right now is unacceptable.
Okay, Councilor Cludier, then Councilor Chance.
So I know that we haven't done anything with that road in a very long time. What is the resident's name that comes to meetings?
Jackie Smith.
Mrs. Smith. So, because Jackie Smith has come to meetings and told us that it hasn't been paved in a long time.
Right.
But she did say that the last time it was done, it wasn't a full overhaul. It was. So what was the last thing that we've done to that road? And it seems like that has gotten us 20 plus years.
Yeah, that was before I got here. So I'm thinking it was back in the 1980s. I used to know exactly when we had last paved that. I can't remember off the top of my head tonight, but it's been some time since we've done anything out there. Now, I'll also remind the councilor too that an earlier statement that I made is somewhat incorrect in that we didn't do every single road, because we do have 2 gravel roads that weren't included as part of the pavement condition code, because there isn't any pavement on those. And quite frankly, Willow Circle I would add as a third one, because there isn't a whole lot of pavement left on that one either. So,
I believe from reading through the book, the date on the book is 1990 for Willow Circle, and that may have been
could be
a skim.
That-
But
that-
I believe
that
Ms.
could be
Smith
right.
said it was really done in the 80s.
Yeah.
They may have come back. I think she hinted at that they came back at some point and did
Yeah.
a skim coating. So perhaps it was 1990. But still, that's quite a long time ago.
Yep.
So are we beyond being able to do what we did last time? Or is that the $35,000 to $40,000?
Well,
estimate here?
what I've told you is that we can put a shim on and a surface layer on. I doubt it's going to last very long. So
Would 5+ years seem reasonable?
maybe.
Okay.
I too had some curiosity about the report and looked up my road, which I would say that I felt that there could be some improvement made. I think the last time it was improved was close to 20 years ago. I was 200 on the list, over 200, probably 250. And I think that it kind of speaks to an issue of how we've neglected infrastructure here because of tough budgetary times and whatever. And I think the report listed that to say this is something we're going to have to concern ourselves with. So I do think that there's a price of keeping budgets low, and I think one of those is road condition, and it affects a lot of people here in the community, and they just have to understand that look at this road. I don't know, how many residents are on that road, Dave? Do you know, on Willow Circle?
I think there's 6.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty large investment for a very, not a lot of residences, and the issue is that there's a lot of bad roads in this community, and the report, I think, was clear that we need to address this sooner than later, and that's something I'd be looking for us to do in the near future.
So 30 to 40,000 for what you think would be like a 5-year fix,
Yeah.
and you said 140,000 to do it right.
We're right.
And how many years would that last?
Probably 20, 25.
Okay, thanks.
Just for clarification, Taylor Hill Road received a pavement condition index of 40, which is failing. That road needs to be rehabbed as well at some point in time. And the other thing I'll mention too is that we do have it on your workshop schedules to give you a presentation on this whole document coming up. I think it's June 6th.
Tentatively, I know it's sometime in June.
Yeah. So we will be coming back to you to give you more information about our pavement condition ratings and what we did with this program and stuff, and how we plan to use it and stuff.
Yeah,
So-
I remember being the planning director when that road got paved, and somebody wrote a letter to the editor that says, you have to be the planning director to get your road fixed here in town. So
Yeah.
now I'm a city councilor, and that many years has passed, so we'll see.
Perfect.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
A quick question for staff. What, and perhaps I should know this, but what are we spending this year in the 17 budget on roads?
It's about $1.3 million total.
1.3. And there were examples in the book that illustrate the current example, the trend, where we're going to be at down the road versus 2 million, 5 million, on and on and on, and how we can potentially catch up to the deterioration trend.
I'm stealing a little bit of my engineering division's thunder when they come and give you the presentation, but basically the consultant that we hired, Goral Palmer, well-known pavement and traffic consultant here in southern Maine, they've recommended that in order for us to just stay the same as we are today without losing ground, we should be spending roughly $2.8 million a year on paving. We've been averaging over the past few years, and this includes state money as well as just our funding here. We've been averaging around $2 million a year or a little bit less than that. This is consistent with what I've been telling the council since I've been here. And we have been falling behind as we're going through. So, tell you what, you tell me what you were just handing me, rather than me trying to decipher what you're trying to tell me.
That figure you gave, Dave, of the 1-point-something million, was that was not including state
That
money?
was just the stuff that's on
Just
the
the state.
LCIP for tonight and
Okay.
stuff. So.
Heather can provide the history. I think that's what she has.
Right, and this was something, you're right, Councilor LaChance, you have seen that we did this during the budget workshop, but we pass out a lot of papers during that time,
Right.
so. From an operating standpoint, excluding MDOT projects, for FY16, we were at 2.75 million. Proposed for FY17, we're at 1.65. If you include the DOT projects, for FY16, you're using another 3.4, and then 17, we have about 11.6 in DOT funds. 11 million, 6.
Council,
Yeah, just a quick clarification. A lot of that huge amount of money is related to Exit 80,
Right.
which is one single very large project. I wouldn't consider it a street reconstruction or maintenance project. I would consider it a expansion of capacity. So I wouldn't count that project toward the issue of maintaining existing.
What I handed out to you just now is the same thing I've handed out almost every year. I didn't get all the information to update it to today's date, but this is what I handed out to the new councilors as they came in last fall. And it shows what our history has been as far as what we should be paving and what we have been paving. And the blue line that's on the graph there is basically, if we're in tough times, that's about the funding level that we should be paving at. The red line is where, the red dotted line is where we actually have been, and that grayed out area in between is the backlog. And as you go across the graph, you'll see that the backlog keeps getting larger and larger and larger as we underfund the street work. So we have been underfunding street work. I'll be upfront with you. I've told you this every single year that I've been here, and I'll continue to tell you that as long as we are. So.
So I think, I know at least last year we got a list of the streets that were scheduled to be paved. Can we get that again for this year?
It was in the LCIP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heather's going to pull it out.
Yeah.
And if I
go ahead, yes.
The LCIP total this year, I had this number this afternoon, but I don't have it in front of me.
Total for streets is
Let's say the whole thing.
the whole thing.
Yeah. And then streets.
The amount that we're talking about for bonds totals $12,194,526. That includes city, school, and our utilities. If you want to look at just general fund stuff, that would be $4,565,000 for city projects and $1,115,526 for school projects. So roughly 5.7.
So the total LCIP for FY17 is 12.1 million. And Heather, do you know what the percent is on the bonding limit?
Well, first of all, I want to correct something. Bless you. The 12.1 million is new projects. Keep in mind, you've already approved the Farwell expansion. I have to
Right.
think
Yeah.
about which
Forgot
school it
about
is
that
every
one.
time. So just so everybody kind of keeps that in the back of your head.
And that Farwell is not included in the 12.1.
No, because you've already authorized that.
Okay, and that if you happen to have the number for FY16 on that for reference, I was curious as to what that was.
For what you bonded for 16?
For the total LCIP, yes.
Dave, here's your answer to Kristen's question.
Kristen, what was your question?
Which streets?
You don't
Oh,
have,
for last year?
for,
for
what's
this
on the
year.
list for this year, yeah.
The ones that are proposed for this year are Stetson Road, Hogan Road to College Road, College Road, Stetson Brook to the Lemieux Street, College Road from Campus Avenue to Vale Street, Campus Avenue, College Street to Central Avenue, Scribner Boulevard, Lisbon Street to Pleasant Street, again, another section of College Street from Sabata Street to Bates Street. That's right over here by the fire station. And Oak Street, Park Street to Bates Street, and Crowley Road, Old Webster Road to 188 Crowley Road. So those are the streets that were planned to do this year.
And that's just paving, or that includes rehab?
That's our maintenance, paving, resurfacing.
Full list.
And
Thank you.
I just forwarded the email I got from you, Dave, to the council, so they have that list now,
Okay.
at least in their email.
Councilor LaChance, I found it.
I knew you would.
$7,498,533.
For everything?
So 7.4
everything.
million. And the percents of fund balance, or of the bonding limits?
Last year, the only year that we have exceeded the bond limit, bond authorization limit was the year we did the middle school. So we've always been under the 8%, so we would have been under the 80%, so we would have been under the 80% last year. As proposed, we're under the 80% this year. Before you get too far along here, there are two items on the list I need to make you aware of. Right at the beginning, the airport landside terminal parking lot for $350,000, and the radio replacement project for LA 911 for $500,000. Those represent our share of capital projects at the airport and LA 911. Auburn is not funding their share this year. So you have a couple choices. One is you can take those off the list and eliminate them from the bonding. If you are interested in possibly spending more money on street paving, our recommendation would be you leave whatever it is you're interested in doing in there in terms of a number, and we can, once the bond order has been authorized, at some point we can transfer the money to paving. If you want to take these out, and if you want to put more money in paving, you can't, we'd have to go through the whole advertising process again in public notice, because we can't change a project after we've advertised it, and this makes no sense whatsoever, but we can't change it after we've advertised it for the public hearing, but once it's been adopted, we can move money between projects. Makes no sense whatsoever, but that's what our bond counsel tells us, so we have to follow the rules the
Just
bond
got
counsel
one
gives
question
us.
for Mr. Jones. You talked about Stetson Road. Now, the Stetson Road section from Main Street to College, that's going to be done by the state next year? Is that right? Or did you
Yes,
mention
yeah,
that in this year's
that's in the works to get state funding, because that is part of the state highway system.
Does they need to
and stuff.
redo that culvert?
The
that keeps
section, the
flooding?
section that I mentioned here is the other section from Hogan, from College over to Hogan, so.
Very good, thanks.
One correction I should make too, the LCIP that you have in front of you has $910,000 in there for street maintenance and $740,000 for road rehab. I had mentioned a few minutes ago that I thought it was 1.3 million. It's actually 1.65 million that we've got in the LCIP for this year. That's still considerably less than the 2.8 our consultant is recommending that we fund every year. So again, we're still underfunding what we need. I will note for the council's benefit that the Auburn City Council upped their paving to $3 million for this year. So they did that last
They
night.
must be using really expensive asphalt.
They're going to get more roads done than we are.
And the finance director found the number.
So, Councilor DeLaChance, going back to your question about what percentage of the debt limit we were at last year, 65.93%, or 82% of the limit.
And this year,
Depending on what you end up going with,
as presented, I would.
As presented,
as presented. I have to unbury my,
I'm putting you through the ringer on this. I apologize again.
it's okay.
But you're good for it every time.
If you include the Farwell addition as well, we're 4.6% below the cap.
76.
76.4 or 75.4.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kathy.
So I would be in favor of us using that money from the airport and the, what was the other thing?
911.
And the 911 radios to do road rehab. And I'd like us to look at including Willow Circle in that.
So do we want to amend?
two follow-ups. All of the money or part of it is one question, because remember, anything we borrow, we have to pay back. Always have to remind you of that. And in terms of Willow Circle, do we want to do the Band-Aid or the complete fix?
Complete.
Yeah, I feel like that Band-Aid's not the wisest investment. I mean, if it's going to cost us, $80,000 or $40,000 to get 5 years, and we get 25 years out of 140, that makes more financial sense.
So I suspect what I would suggest the easiest way to do this would be, if everything else on the list is okay, just adopt this as presented. We'll come back. Can we come back at the next meeting and do the transfer? We'll come back at the next meeting and do a transfer of the $850,000 to a combination of paving and reconstruction. We'll come back with a proposal that will include may include some of both, and we'll specify $140,000 for Willow Circle.
And that would leave a balance. Could that be that could be used for another road somewhere, possibly?
Oh yeah, if it's $850,000, you'll have $710,000 left, and we will come back with a set of suggestions as to how to spend that. It might include overlay, it might include some reconstruction, but we'll take a look at what's coming up on our list and compare that with the pavement.
Yeah, I'll probably want to go a little heavier on the maintenance paving to keep the good streets good and try and maintain it but we probably do want to put a little bit more money into the rehab account as well. So, but we can come up with some suggestions for the council to consider.
So the motion will remain as moved.
Motion will remain as is, and we'll come back at the next regular meeting to
I
do an
have a
amendment.
question, okay? Airport's one thing, but when you're talking about radios at 911, is this becoming a safety issue? I
Well,
mean, if
let-
these people over there want to nickel and dime people's lives, that's fine, but I don't think we should be doing that.
Let me talk a little bit about that. I know Chief Leclerc would have been happy to do that, but he was called out to, there's a structure fire at 30 Pettingill Street, which is now under control. Bill's watching the news as it comes in. It is a matter of some concern. As you may recall from the capital plan, we are looking at having to pretty much upgrade the entire radio system, the consoles, a lot of the ancillary equipment. There's some tower issues. There's some dead spots in different communities. I don't know that putting something off for a year is going to be the end of the universe, but the stuff is old. We were looking at phasing in some of these purchases over 3 years. It is an item that I anticipated to have on the discussion with the Auburn Council when we have the joint meeting on the 31st, because there comes a point where things do start to break. I think some of you may recall that the county was pretty much in that position a few years ago, where their equipment was basically close to falling apart completely. So it is a matter of some concern. I talked to the chief about that a little bit today when I found out that Auburn had not included that funding. And I suggested to him that it would be difficult for us to include funding for something, for our 50% of something that Auburn didn't, but that certainly the door would remain open if there was a necessity to address the problem during the year. So what we might want to do, just if you want to be careful, is certainly we can transfer the $350,000 right now into paving. We could hold off a little bit on that $500,000 until after we had the joint meeting with Auburn and after you've had a chance to hear from the LA 911 people about how critical that stuff is or isn't in an immediate year. Once we have that information, we can decide. And once we get some feedback from Auburn Council as to what they want to do, we can then decide if we want to leave some of that money there or move it into paving.
Yeah, well, I just find it kind of insulting because this is Police Memorial Week, and for those people to sit over there and they face no danger, and they're sitting there putting people's lives in danger, including the public. Because if you get somewhere and that radio isn't working, and you might have an emergency, I mean, this is getting a little ridiculous with these people over there. Okay, that's my thought. Anybody else have any? Okay, we second it. To the public.
Steve Miller, I guess my question is, why isn't the city of Auburn wanting to fund that? And do we have an answer why they don't want to fund it?
As I recall from watching it from a distance, there was a certain amount of pressure brought from the council, concern over level of debt and payments that they had to make. So they were looking at, I think they gave the city administrator, city manager over there a target to shoot at. Do you remember? And I think he basically came back with a proposal that did not include this. I will point out that I don't believe there was a huge amount of discussion of it. Certainly not at the last meeting where they actually approved the bond issue. There may have been some discussion earlier in the budget process. So I can't speak for why the details of their decision, but that was kind of the process.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Hearing none, back to the council. So I guess we can call the roll.
If the councilors are all set, yeah, Councilor from Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4.
Yes.
Ward 5.
Yes.
Ward 7,
Yes.
Ward 1.
Yes.
Ward 2.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Motion passed by a vote of 7-0.